Last night on the Malecón in La Paz, a full-grown adult was learning how to ride a bicycle. Her patient, encouraging teacher was a 12 or 13-year-old with all the confidence of an expert in his field, which he surely is. It got me thinking about learning new skills as an adult. The student's confidence here is teetering on the edge. She's probably overthinking it instead of letting her body take over. A big part of her is sure she can't do it. She's tried before and failed. It's something that's come to define her. She's an adult who's never learned to ride a bike. But any of us can see she's going to nail it on the next attempt, or the next, even though she doesn't believe it. And here I am in some not too deep sand along the Sea of Cortez between Santa Rosalia and Loreto. I finally got off the tarmac, found a couple great off-road sections to take me south. But as soon as I started floating and drifting in the sand, I'm sure I looked just like our bicycle riding student, tightening up my muscles instead of relaxing, holding my breath, looking down instead of ahead, preparing to crash. I didn't crash, and I hope I remember that next time I'm riding in sand, especially deep sand and not this light dusting. And despite the low-grade panic, it was a blast. I came into Baja through the small city of Tecate, an easy border crossing. It took only an hour or so for my visa and a temporary import permit for the bike. And yes, Tecate is where they make the beer. And yes, I enjoyed a can that night in San Felipe, along with fish tacos and a moonlight swim in the Sea of Cortez. No hay premio? No. I made fast friends with this fellow at the Pemex station who teaches himself English by learning one new word a day. We probably talked for half an hour, standing there in that one rectangle of shade surrounded by 100 miles of scorching desert. In Mexico, they love to get every drop possible in your tank, which I'm glad for, so I don't have to buy gas off the back of a truck, the way motorcycles with smaller tanks have to on this long, empty stretch in the middle of Baja. And then the highway reaches back again to the Sea of Cortez, and even though the air doesn't cool off, it was between 100 and 104 for much of the day. Just the sight of the water is a little refreshing. The road gets very rough for some miles as I approach Santa Rosalia. It looks like no Mexican town I've ever seen, in part because of a French company in the 19th century that mined the region's copper and built wooden buildings in a French colonial style. I have a delicious dinner of fish machaca and get a recommendation from the restaurant for a hotel. A great place at the right price with a shack out front whose specialty of the day is choco flan, which I can't resist. Santa Rosalia. Delicious taco at this place for breakfast. Taco and coffee. I get an early start deciding to ride all the way to La Paz. First, gas. And just a note on how, not always, but sometimes the Mexican gas stations really get the restrooms right. Sparkling clean, warm water, soap, paper towels. They also wear masks in the many places they're still required without putting up a fuss. No one seems to feel their personal liberties are being violated by behaving for the benefit of the social good. And who could resist Susana Distancia? Also, horchata Gatorade, a major player in the last 4 days of my life. I blast an hour through the desert and arrive in Mulaje, and for some reason order a cup of hot coffee. This guy can hardly believe it either. Leaving town, I find another unpaved road and ride it for a while down the coast until I hit pavement. It's well over 100 now, and I think of another riding buddy, Shoop, who got caught out late on a ride, dark and raining, on twisting roads he didn't know, exhausted. His response was to ride as fast as possible to get it over with quicker. It makes no sense, but in the moment, a little scared, it seemed reasonable to him. And my decision to blast this last stretch of Baja in a day because it was too hot to stand still may be similarly flawed. I'd hoped to camp along the Sea of Cortez at a few gorgeous spots I'd researched, but I couldn't see setting up a tent in 100 degrees, so I pushed on an 11-hour day, including breaks like lunch in Loreto. And this is part of the learning, not just riding in sand and mud, but learning the rhythm of this trip, finding the pace that works for me, figuring out how to adapt to all the elements beyond my control. And a few times, unbelievably, I passed people doing these desert miles on bicycles, surely learning themselves with every mile how to keep going. I slow down a notch and give them a wave. I've got nothing but awe. And I have awe for my new friend at the Pemmick station, telling me about learning his one new word each day, reminding me why we travel, why we stand in the shade and talk to people.
Every people, I think every person has their different points of view.